Welcome back into the A10 Spotlight. We are pumped to welcome into the program ASN's lead national college basketball analyst, Mark Adams. Mark, how you doing?
Good, Monica. I'm ready to talk some Atlantic 10 basketball.
All right, well, let's do it. And we'll kick the conversation off, Mark. Which teams are hot in the A10, hottest, I should say, and why?
You know, a couple teams have caught my eye. We've talked a lot about VCU and a lot about Rhode Island, but for very good reason. But George Mason is a team that's kind of flying below the radar, that's had a really good November leading into December, and they're really led by Marquise Moore, who's been a double-double guy. I mean, I like the way that kid runs the floor. I like his motor. He goes after the rebounds. And then Otis Livingston as well has also been very effective for Dave Paulson's club. Then you look at the Dayton Flyers. Now with the Dayton Flyers, we know that Josh Cunningham was hurt earlier this season on that last-second dunk against Alabama. How would they recover? They went home, lost to St. Mary's, but now they bounced back. And Kendall Pollard, all of a sudden, is back in the lineup and playing. Went for 12 points and 5 rebounds in his debut. You always got Charles Cook. You always got Scoochie Smith. That's another team that's won a bunch of games in a row, and they seem to be hitting their stride right now. And then when you look at St. Bonaventure with Matt Mobley, who's a three-point shooting threat, almost 50% from behind the arc, and Jalen Adams as well, Coach Schmidt has that team playing extremely well right now. They've got a Saturday matchup of this week against UNC Wilmington. So it's going to be a really exciting week for the A10. But those are three teams, I think. One is recovered in Dayton. George Mason flying below the radar, but has elevated their game. And St. Bonaventure with two really good guards that are making life miserable for people who are trying to guard them.
Jalen Adams of the Bonnies, in fact, a co-player of the week from the week of December 6th. All right, Mark, so we keep it moving. Those are your hottest teams. Who has surprised you in the A10?
Well, I had the great privilege last weekend of calling the city game, Duquesne versus Pitt. Now, let me give you a little bit of background on this game. Duquesne hadn't won for 15 straight years, and they had been blown out virtually every game. The margin of victory for Pitt was over 18 points per game. And Pitt got up early. Duquesne was down by 10 points in the first half, but they came back because Emil Blackman played so well. He's a lead guard that can really shoot, the transfer from Niagara. And all of a sudden, it was a one-point game at halftime, and the momentum swung, and Duquesne just kept on rolling. The unsung hero of this game was Darius Lewis, the big fella. He's a big space eater inside. He only had 2 points, but he had 7 rebounds, a couple block shots. And Duquesne, you should have seen the scene as Duquesne rushed the floor with the big win over Pitt, 64-55. That was one of my great memories of the season. So that's kind of my surprise team this past week in the Atlantic 10.
I'm sure Coach Ferry and his squad were pumped, Mark. But obviously Duquesne got that win, but in terms of the X's and O's, what surprised you about the Dukes?
Their guard play. Mike Lewis and Emil Blackman were stellar in that game. They went into attack mode. They played kind of a half-court set in the first 10 minutes of the half. And all of a sudden, Coach Ferry, who's known for running, all of a sudden, they went into hyperdrive, and these guards were just attacking one way, left way, right way, up the middle, every which way. I mean, they looked like Jerome Bettis going through a line. That's how hard they were attacking the basket. And Pitt just did not have a defensive answer, and Duquesne pulled off the upset. It was one of the most entertaining games I've seen this season, and congratulations to the Dukes on a big win in the city game.
Indeed. They were very efficient offensively as well, 40% as a team in that game. All right, Mark, so we keep this thing rolling. Duquesne, a win over Pitt, a good one for the A10 over the ACC. What are some other good wins that the A10 has gotten thus far this season?
Well, Dayton over Alabama, Davidson over Missouri. You got Rhode Island over Cincinnati. That was a tremendous win for Rhode Island. Davidson over Arizona State. Now, Arizona State's down. Richmond knocked off Boston College. Boston College is down. VCU beat St. John's. VCU also beat LSU, who's not a bad basketball team in the SEC, and Duquesne over Pitt. Those would be the games right now of the big budget programs that the Atlantic 10 has knocked off. There's been 8 of them so far. The Atlantic 10 has twice as many wins against big budget programs as any other conference in the country. The Atlantic 10 has earned their tradition and their reputation as giant killers. Now, but here's the key. In the next month, the A10 has some huge games coming up that will determine their multiple bid status in the NCAA tournament. Remember, they've had the 6th most bids over the last 3 to 5 seasons in the NCAA selection process. In order to maintain those multiple bids at 2, 3, and 4 bids, December is a huge month for the Atlantic 10.
Indeed, Mark. Well, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Monica. Great to visit with you.
Talk to you soon.